Have you ever wondered why America seems to be constantly involved in conflicts around the globe? Is it always about freedom, justice, or national security? The uncomfortable truth is that for America, war has never been just about ideology. It's been about money. It's a highly profitable business model that has shaped the modern global financial system. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal how the US perfected the art of turning bloodshed into balance sheets. Let's rewind to World War I. While Europe was tearing itself apart, the US initially stayed on the sidelines, but not out of the game. Wall Street, led by giants like J.P. Morgan, saw a golden opportunity. They arranged billions of dollars in loans for Britain and France, effectively bankrolling one side of the war. By the time America officially entered the conflict in 1917, its financial system was so deeply entangled with the Allies that their victory was a financial necessity. To fund its own involvement, the government urged citizens to buy Liberty bonds. It was a genius move. Patriotism was weaponized to sell debt. While young men sacrificed their lives and families rationed goods, the financial elite were converting chaos into cash. The bankers and industrialists got rich, while ordinary Americans paid the price in blood and treasure. Just 2 decades later, the world plunged into an even greater conflict, World War II. The playbook was the same, but the scale was astronomical. This time, the government didn't just ask for support, it launched one of the biggest marketing campaigns in history. Over 85 million Americans bought war bonds, raising an incredible $185 billion. That's over half the entire cost of the war. It was a masterclass in public financing. Meanwhile, corporations like Boeing, Ford, and General Motors, which had struggled during the Great Depression, were suddenly booming. They received massive government contracts with guaranteed profits to produce planes, tanks, and weapons. And the arsenal of democracy was also an arsenal of profit. But the real game changer happened behind the scenes. In 1944, with Europe in ruins, leaders from 44 Allied nations gathered at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. There, they forged a new global financial order. The US, as the only major power left standing with its industrial base intact and holding most of the world's gold, dictated the terms. The Bretton Woods Agreement made the US dollar the world's official reserve currency, convertible to gold at a fixed rate. Every other currency was pegged to the dollar. America didn't just win the war, it won the entire financial system. While Europe rebuilt from rubble, the US emerged as the undisputed economic superpower of the world. After World War II, you might expect a period of peace and reduced military spending, but that's not what happened. Instead, the Cold War began, and with it came a new economic philosophy some call military Keynesianism. The idea was simple. Use massive continuous defense spending to stimulate the economy and prevent recessions. War spending was no longer a temporary measure for emergencies. It became a permanent, structural feature of the US economy. An arms race with the Soviet Union provided the perfect justification for sky-high military budgets year after year. This created a powerful alliance between the government, the military, and defense corporations, an alliance that President Eisenhower would later famously warn about as the military-industrial complex. The engine of war had been integrated into the engine of the economy. Then came the Vietnam War, a conflict that would stretch on for years and cost the US over $100 billion. On the battlefield, it was a quagmire and widely seen as a military failure. But for the defense contractors and the banks financing the war, it was business as usual. Profits soared. However, this endless spending had severe consequences. The US was printing money to pay for the war, leading to massive deficits and runaway inflation. The strain on the US gold reserves became unbearable. Other countries, losing faith in the dollar, started demanding gold for their dollar holdings. In 1971, President Nixon made a shocking announcement. He was unilaterally severing the dollar's link to gold. The Bretton Woods system collapsed. The dollar became fiat money, backed not by a precious metal, but by the full faith, credit, and most importantly, the military might of the United States. With the dollar no longer backed by gold, America needed a new way to guarantee global demand for its currency. The solution was ingenious and ruthless: the petrodollar system. In the 1970s, the US struck a deal with Saudi Arabia and, by extension, OPEC. The agreement was that oil, the lifeblood of the global economy, would be priced and sold exclusively in US dollars. In return, the US would provide military protection to the oil-producing nations. This move forced every country that needed to buy oil to first acquire US dollars, creating a permanent, artificial demand for the currency. War and money were now two sides of the same coin. The US military presence in the Middle East wasn't just about geopolitics. It was about protecting the dollar's dominance. Fast forward to 1991 and the First Gulf War. This conflict was short, decisive, and, for some, incredibly profitable. It was a spectacle broadcast live on TV, showcasing the overwhelming power of the American military. But it was also a marketing campaign. The war served as a live demonstration for a new generation of high-tech weapons like Patriot missiles and stealth bombers. After the war, military tech stocks surged. Countries around the world lined up to buy the battle-proven American hardware they'd just seen on CNN. War had officially become a trade show for the merchants of death. The 21st century began with the War on Terror. Following the tragic events of 9/11, the US launched long, costly wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Over 2 decades, these conflicts have cost the American taxpayer an estimated $6 trillion when you include debt interest and long-term care for veterans. And who benefited? The same players. Defense giants like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and private military contractors like Halliburton saw their stock prices and profits explode. The playbook was executed flawlessly. The government issued massive amounts of debt to fund the wars. The Federal Reserve bought that debt, and taxpayers were left with the bill. From a financial perspective, even if the wars were failures on the ground, they were a stunning success for the military-industrial complex. War was no longer a moral crusade, it was a self-sustaining business. Today, the system Eisenhower warned about in 1961 is more powerful than ever. It defines the American economy. The annual defense budget now exceeds $800 billion, more than the next 10 countries combined. Entire industries, powerful lobbying groups, politicians on both sides of the aisle, and Wall Street itself are all deeply dependent on this perpetual cycle of spending and conflict. The cost is paid by ordinary citizens through taxes that fund the wars, inflation that devalues their savings, and a national debt that mortgages their children's future. This pattern extends beyond military conflict. Think about the 2008 financial crash or the recent global pandemic. The response was the same: massive government debt, bailouts for corporations deemed too big to fail, while ordinary people were left to struggle. Crisis, whether military or economic, has become the primary engine for profit and control. The system is designed to thrive on volatility, creating dependency and ensuring that wealth continues to flow from the many to the few. So the next time you hear about a new conflict or crisis, ask yourself, cui bono? Who benefits? The history of the last century teaches us that war has always been as much about balance sheets, debt, and profit as it has been about freedom or democracy. Real financial literacy isn't just about saving or investing. It's about understanding how the system is built to profit from conflict and how it's designed to keep ordinary people paying for it. History doesn't just repeat itself, it's engineered to profit from the repetition. Thanks for watching. If this video opened your eyes, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more content that challenges the official narrative. We'll see you in the next one.